At the very least, I must try to complement his artistry and not distract from it.
Brother and sister? Maybe not, but there's still two peas in a pod.
Byakuya broke the law for love and has spent the last 50 years of his life bound by the very rules he once defied. Byakuya Kuchiki, born into nobility, carries the weight of honor, tradition, and duty. Zommari, the espada of intoxication, rages in his final hours about the perceived injustices between Hollows and Shinigami. His plea is impassioned, calling out the hypocrisy of Soul Society. So in this video, we will explore how these words stand up in the face of a man who once rebelled against his own nobility, and discover what is at the core of Byakuya's pride and who is his duty to, Shinigami or family. I really appreciate you all, from the first subscriber to the last subscriber. The best thing you can do for the cafe if you love this channel is subscribe, like the video, and turn on alerts to stay up to date with Cafe Zealot. Peace. Byakuya's personality initially comes off as cold and distant. I remember his encounter with Ichigo, stepping in for Renji, effortlessly outclassing everyone present, and leaving Ichigo in a state that seemed beyond recoverable. But when I look back, something didn't add up. Byakuya was under orders, manipulated by Aizen, to bring Rukia back, dead or alive. So why did he leave Ichigo alive? Byakuya didn't pull his punches. His attacks were real, but I believe he bluffed his intention to kill. He struck Ichigo's soul sleep and life chain, and as we see in chapter 56, walks away stating, "And if he does survive." As a reader, I couldn't be sure at the time, was he just overconfident that Ichigo was going to die, or was there something more? Looking back, I believe he showed Ichigo mercy in that moment. This comes together after the Soul Society arc, when we begin to understand Aizen may have been the puppet master, but the emotional conflict was real. Inside Soul Society, Byakuya is rule-driven, so much so that he refused to help his sister. We see his rigidity when Ukitake has to stop him from taking out Ganju Shiba. Ichigo's quest to save Rukia brings him face to face with Byakuya, who becomes the final obstacle, almost a final boss, standing between Ichigo and his goal. But through Byakuya's loss, we come to understand the truth behind his demeanor, as at the hands of Ichigo, the mask falls off.
Past 5 years that we've spent together have been like a wonderful, beautiful dream.
Over 50 years ago, Byakuya broke his clan's most sacred rules out of his first love, and he then broke the rules again for compassion. Byakuya fell in love with the commoner, Hisana, and married her despite fierce clan disapproval. 5 years later, as Hisana lay dying, he honored her final wish to find and adopt her lost sister, Rukia, bringing a Rukungai orphan into the noble Kuchiki family. In doing so, Byakuya violated the law again, placing love above tradition. Racked with guilt for betraying his family's code twice, he knelt before his parents' graves and swore it would be the last time. From that moment, he vowed he would follow and defend the rules to the very end, no matter the cost. This vow chained Byakuya to his duty. Stuck between the vows he took as a husband to honor thy wife in sickness and health, fulfilling her dying wish, and the promise he gave his parents to uphold the law at all cost, nearly lost him Rukia. It was a rock and a hard place, and the choice he made not to finish Ichigo off was the liberation he needed. Rukia wasn't the only Kuchiki that needed to be saved that day. After Rukia's rescue, Byakuya humbly apologized to her and thanked Ichigo for opening his eyes. But this wasn't a hallmark moment. His previous conflicts just don't up and disappear, and with Rukia knowing the truth, she may have forgiven Byakuya, but has Byakuya forgiven himself? He cares deeply for Rukia. In her flashback, she once believed Byakuya was disappointed in her failure to become a seated officer, only for us as readers to later realize during her fight against D-Roy that this was by design, out of love. Byakuya used his influence as a noble to ensure she remained unranked, shielding her from the dangers of combat. He is a caring brother who wants Rukia to live a peaceful life, both to honor Hisana's memory and to protect her as family. But in doing so, he places her in a kind of invisible cage. Rukia lives with a dome of protection, one built from Byakuya's influence, not boundaries. Of course, the protective dome shattered during the Soul Society arc, but now understanding the man behind the mask, we can finally evaluate the version of Byakuya who stands before Zommari, after Rukia is left vulnerable following her battle with Arrogance. With Byakuya showing up, how will he now show us, as the reader, that he has grown from his internal conflict? When his duty is now justified, what words will he express, and how will he handle Rukia being downed? With the mask removed and the framework of Byakuya's past established, we can finally begin to explore my question. How does Byakuya unite his pride with his duty? Rukia's forgiveness is only one piece of the equation, because true redemption isn't just about being forgiven, it's about how the forgiven choose to act afterward. That's where the reality of a person's heart is revealed.
An impressive display of detachment in the face of painful choices. However, that detachment, in my view, seems dangerously rash.
To Zommari, Byakuya symbolizes Soul Society's elitist cruelty, a cold aristocrat who slays hollows without a second thought. Zommari's own worldview is shaped by a bitterness towards Soul Reapers. He holds a deep prejudice against them, condemning the Shinigami for slaughtering hollows out of sheer arrogance. In Zommari's eyes, Soul Reapers are self-appointed judges who oppress his kind. So when Zommari finds Rukia injured and defenseless, he sees an opportunity to strike back at the Soul Reapers in justice. He moves to execute Rukia without mercy, chastising his fallen comrade Arrogance for failing to finish her off. At that very moment, Byakuya arrives. Immediately, a clash of perceptions occurs. Zommari addresses Byakuya with contempt, labeling him as just another proud Shinigami captain. He even remarks on Byakuya's silence as arrogance when Byakuya refuses to give his name. Zommari scoffs that the captain's pride is the reason he'll fall. From Zommari's perspective, everything about Byakuya reeks of nobility and self-righteous pride. To Zommari, Byakuya is the kind of man who will enforce the law even if it means killing his sister. Exactly the narrative of oppression Zommari expects. However, his assumptions were not too far off from what could have happened back in Soul Society. It is what we as the reader once believed as well, right? What Zommari doesn't realize is that Byakuya Kuchiki is no longer the blindly law-bound noble he appears to be. He never was to begin with. Byakuya's very presence here in enemy territory to save Rukia is proof of how far he's come. The irony is thick. Zommari preaches about injustice and pride to the one captain who has personally questioned the justice of Soul Society's rules. Byakuya, who once almost executed Rukia under the weight of tradition, is now risking his own life to keep her safe. Zommari completely misjudges him, aiming barbs at an outdated image. This misconception sets the stage for a confrontation not just of blades, but of philosophies and personal values.
I'm arrogant. Now what makes you believe that? You are an enemy, but you are also a captain. The fact of the matter is, I consider you to be my equal, and I have conducted myself in that manner.
As their battle begins, Zommari cannot resist lecturing Byakuya. His words are passionate, almost compelling in isolation. He decries the Soul Reaper's hypocrisy, questioning what right they have to execute hollows who are simply following their nature. In one heated moment, as Byakuya gains the upper hand, Zommari cries out that Shinigami have no right to slay hollows, and that Soul Reapers should not meddle in hollow affairs. It's an argument that touches on the cycle of souls and the questionable moral high ground of the Soul Society. Zommari's stance could almost evoke sympathy. After all, we've seen hollows in Bleach who were once human souls turned into monsters by fate. His talk of oppression and injustice is a rare open challenge to Soul Society's ethics, something not often voiced by hollows. However, Zommari's righteous speech is misplaced in this context. Why? Because the man he's accusing, Byakuya, isn't fighting out of duty or scorn for hollows at all. Byakuya doesn't engage with Zommari's philosophical arguments. Notably, he doesn't bother to defend the Soul Reaper's right to kill hollows. Instead, he remains focused on the immediate reality. Rukia's life is in danger. To Zommari, this stoic silence reads as arrogant disdain. Enraged, Zommari declares he will crush Byakuya's pride with his power. We also see poignant parallels. Zommari himself shows a blind loyalty, not to justice as he claims, but to Aizen. He reveres Aizen as a savior figure and clings to the idea of Aizen's rebellion against Soul Society. In a way, Zommari is as rigidly devoted to his cause as Byakuya once was to the law. The difference is, Byakuya has grown past that point. Byakuya stands here not as an agent of the law or a pawn of a higher master. There's a deeper lesson in this moment about false perceptions and the danger of idolizing systems. Zommari sees Byakuya only as a Shinigami, a symbol of a system he views as inherently evil. And he's not entirely wrong. If Soul Society were just, we wouldn't have people like Aizen or even Tozen. But we also have figures like Urahara, proof that not everyone hates nor upholds the system in the same way. There are great people who also question the ethics of the system that they live in. Byakuya says little in this battle, but his actions speak volumes. He chooses a third path, the one where he exercises the most control. The path is defined by what he holds dear, family. Zommari condemns the Shinigami for cruelty. What about the way Hollows treat their own? We've seen Espada like Neutra, Yami, and Siloporo brutalize others without mercy. And even among the Shinigami, cruelty exists, especially in someone like Mayuri, but those injustices do not align with his view of the system that are upheld by the Shinigami. This oversight and misjudgment of character in place of his hatred for the system is what leads to his downfall. It's a fatal gap in growth that separate him from someone like Byakuya Kuchiki, but he will surely tell you that in his own words.
The difference between my power and your power is as wide as the gap between heaven and earth.
The Byakuya facing Zommari is remarkably calm and methodical. Even as the Espada unleashes his fury, Byakuya doesn't rise to the taunts, nor does he moralize in return. Instead, he demonstrates his resolve through precision and sacrifice. When Zommari boasts about his speed clone technique, Gemelos Sonido, and swarms Byakuya with multiple bodies, Byakuya swiftly analyzes and counters it with hardly a change in expression. He even uses a high-level flash step technique, Atsusimi, taught by Yurichi, a move he normally hates to use due to pride, to dodge a fatal strike, showing that he's willing to set pride aside, which is something Zommari can't do. Being intoxicated on pride will lead to arrogance. Zommari, refusing to accept this, releases his Resurreccion, Brujeria. Now the fight takes a turn. The 58 eyes represent Amor, Zommari's ability to seize control of anything in his sight. With a single gaze, Zommari steals sovereignty over Byakuya's left leg, forcing it under his command. What does Byakuya do in response? Something drastic that shocks even Zommari. Without hesitation, Byakuya slashes the tendons of his leg. In that instant, Byakuya demonstrates how far he'll go to protect what matters. He would rather cripple himself than allow Zommari to use his body as a weapon against Rukia. This is Byakuya's answer to Zommari's challenge. Not grandstanding, but self-sacrifice and skill. Even balanced on one leg, Byakuya's composure barely falters. Zommari then turns his eyes to Byakuya's left arm. Again, Byakuya counters by disabling that limb as well. Wounded and down to one arm and one leg, any lesser warrior would despair, but Byakuya remains unimpressed. Furious, Zommari ups the ante and uses Amor on a new target. Unbeknownst to Byakuya, at first, Zommari quietly marks Rukia with his eyes. Rukia's unconscious body suddenly rises, her eyes blank under Zommari's control. He draws her own sword and holds it to her. Zommari effectively takes Rukia hostage as a last-ditch play, proclaiming that if he controls her head, he controls her life. He orders Byakuya to drop his weapon or watch his pride die by her own hand. For a heartbeat, it seems Zommari has cornered Byakuya. No attack can be made without endangering Rukia. Zommari's Resurreccion is interesting a closed lotus petal. There is meaning there. A closed lotus petal alludes to potential of enlightenment, and Zommari's god complex gives him a false perception of his placement, viewing himself as a deity, when in reality he is misguided. He sits on a closed lotus petal, the throne of a false god. His play towards Rukia was a mistake. Zommari is not omnipresent.
Bankai, Senbon Zakara, Kageoshi.
What is this? Damn it, no! I'm in control, move as I command!
Defeated and kneeling, Zommari faces the end, and here his true character shows. The proud Espada, who lectured about injustice, now begs for his life.
Show mercy.
Zommari isn't committed to anything beyond his false godhood and twisted idealism. A fake god can't measure up to a Shinigami with true conviction. Have mercy, he cries. Realizing no mercy is coming, he erupts. How dare a Shinigami judge a Hollow, who gave Soul Reapers the right to play executioner? He denounces Byakuya as a shameless murderer. Zommari uses his final moment to give it all to the grace of Aizen, showing how much of a coward he was. A god who is only a god through the power of others is just a sheep under the illusion of autonomy, a pawn in the system. Byakuya's response is not one of anger or gloating. He shows through his words as he keeps it short but direct.
I don't remember saying that I would kill you because I'm a Soul Reaper. It's because you aimed your blade at my only pride.
Byakuya wants Zommari and us, the audience, to understand that this is not an execution carried out on behalf of the Soul Society. It's personal. It's bigger than the system. You can't justify harmful actions against those that you think transgressed against you without understanding who and what they are and their personal convictions. Byakuya and Zommari probably have similar views on the system of hierarchy between Hollow and Shinigami, considering Byakuya's own conflictions from the Soul Society arc. Rukia is his pride. The sister he once appeared ready to sacrifice is at last openly acknowledged as the thing he holds most dear. In that moment, Byakuya Kuchiki's honor comes full circle. It's no longer about blind adherence to the law or maintaining a frosty facade of nobility. It's about protecting the people he loves, which love is the very reason that first led him to break the rules decades ago. He could have easily became someone like Zommari, seeing the world in black and white, but Byakuya wasn't arrogant. His pride was Rukia, the last wish of Hisana, and the sister he nearly lost to his idealistic contradictions. The battle with Zommari symbolically mirrors this internal journey. Zommari's accusations of oppression and arrogance mirror the man Byakuya used to be, trapped in this rigid structure of Soul Society. By facing and refuting those accusations through action, Byakuya begins to atone for his past inaction in Soul Society. He proves that it's not just duty that drives him now, but pride. And in doing so, he finally finds balance between the two. In defending Rukia, Byakuya at last aligns his honor with his heart, honoring the promise to his family and wife. Every fight in Bleach has something to offer. It's part of Kubo's circular storytelling style. The way he brings closure to Byakuya's failure to protect Rukia during the Soul Society arc by putting him against a character who reflects the assumptions once made about him, it was a brilliant way for Kubo to push Byakuya over the hurdle of his past promise, reinforcing both out loud and to the reader that Rukia is his sister, his only pride, and that he will show no mercy to anyone who threatens that pride. As always, I could ramble on forever, but the video is long enough. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and turn on alerts to stay up to date with the cafe. Peace out, zealots.